I love Civ 6, I love Magic, these are my Civ 6 themed Magic fan cards. I am Loki the Gamer, here to entertain you and amaze you and just keep you company for about 20 minutes while we talk about the Cree people. The Cree set is 6 cards like usual, 1 legendary land, 1 leader, 2 unique items, 1 card based on the leader's agenda, and 1 bonus card, for which I had to be creative. I love when a Civ allows me that opportunity to invent the 6th card out of nowhere. I get to do a little bit of research, a little bit of flavor, and the Cree was one of them. Let's have an overview of the Cree. In the Cree, we will talk about territory gain. So the Cree have an ability to easily, cheaply increase their land. That, in Magic terms, will translate to extra land drops, or rather, land fetching. There's a lot of trade, so the Cree is a trade-centric Civ. So, like many of the trade-focused Civs out there, I made the Cree all about group hugs. So about you getting something and the opponents getting something. And then you have cool things that trigger when opponents get things. And you're usually the cause that they got those things in the first place. The Cree also has the concept of alliance visibility. In this case, I treated this alliance visibility in a concept of playing with an open hand. More on that later. And finally, the Cree care very much, like many leaders out there, like many Civs out there, it cares very much about land improvement, such as pastures and camps more specifically. But basically, if we look at my chart, land improvements are treated as land auras, so enchantment aura cards that enchant lands. And the Cree is certainly no exception to this. The Cree will be a mono-green Civ. That makes a lot of sense given how in touch they are with nature. They're all about peace and cooperation and coexistence, and green being the next best peaceful color after white seems to make a lot of sense. And the Cree being essentially Canada, and if you've seen my Canada video, I gave Canada white and green, so they are very close together in terms of color identity as well. And here we go, let's take a look at the Cree ability in Civ 6. The ability is called Nihita. You get extra trade routes, and this is the ability that earns you extra land. Unclaimed tiles within 3 tiles of a Cree city come under Cree control when a trader first moves into them. So I played the Cree once. It was very satisfying to send trade routes early and then see your land whoop, just grab extra tiles for free just because of a trader walked through it. So that was very satisfying. You try to send your trade routes in various directions to grab more and more and more land. And that was very fun. Let's take a look at the magic legendary land of the Cree. Au Ich is that's fun. Ischi. Au Ishchi, land of the Cree. Though yeah, this Au Ishchi, I did a little research. That is what the Cree call their land. Is a legendary snowland, because why not? We are essentially talking about Canada here. So it's a legendary snowland, not that the rest of the set cares about it being a snowland, but you know, other cards out there do. So it's a legendary snowland, an uncommon, and I made it a forest. So obviously it is not a basic land, but it is a forest, so it is fetchable by anything that says, go get a forest from your deck. That does not specify that must be a basic land. You can go and fetch that. So, unlike all, well, not all, but unlike most of the legendary lands that I created in this project, the Cree land here is much easier to rely upon. You can trust that the Au Ischi land of the Cree will be involved in most of your games, because even if you don't draw it, you should be able to fetch it fairly easily. And this is a green producing land, so you're playing green. I made the Cree mono green. So it shouldn't be that hard, really, to find a way to fetch a forest, even though it's non-basic. And here's the Nihitha ability. And yeah, it triggers whenever an opponent gets some goodies. So whenever an opponent creates a food, treasure, clue, or blood token, you may search your library for a forest card, put it into play, tapped, then shuffle. And of course it taps for green. So there you go. Whenever an opponent creates stuff, you get to increase your land, just like the free land grab that the traders earn you in Civ 6. Now, of course, you might think, well, my opponent's creating a food, treasure, clue, blood. That is out of my control. There's very good chances that this thing gives me nothing, just like a dockside extortionist that turns out to be a complete dud because your opponents have no artifacts. Well, that's no good. All of this is out of my control. Not so, as you will soon see with the rest of the Cree cards. Indeed, the Cree is all about trading. So you'll see. These are the cards, they force opponents to create these things. You give, literally, opponents all these things. And if you have this land in play, well, there you go, free land. Let's take a look at the leader, Poundmaker. His ability is called Favorable Terms. So it comes in two parts. First, all alliance types provide shared visibility. Normally, alliance granting shared visibility is restricted to a certain type of alliance or a certain level of alliance. With Poundmaker, if you're allied with him, you get shared visibility. So it was fairly easy to translate that into Magic terms. Whether you are quote-quote allied with an opponent or not. Basically, Poundmaker assumes that he's allied with everyone. He really is a group hug type commander, so he assumes that everyone at the table is allied with him. Even though you just attacked him for 29 damage and they attack you back for 33. Hey, alliance, everyone's happy, no matter who's getting beat to death. Everyone is an alliance de facto. And his other ability, this little complex, but essentially, your own trade routes, and trade routes that you receive are all enhanced. Extra food, extra gold, and they are enhanced based on improvements upon the land, specifically camps or pastures. But in my case, I just said, okay, improvements on the land, doesn't matter what they are, improvements on the land equals land auras, if you remember from the equivalency. So there you go. So your trade routes are enhanced. The more you and the more your opponents have land improvements, i.e. land auras, the better the trade will be. And your bonuses come in the form of food and gold. And if we look at our chart of equivalency, food translates to, in this case, I chose food tokens. So you will get a lot of food tokens, and your opponents will too, and that will trigger the land of the Cree. And for gold, well, gold translates sometimes to treasures, and that is indeed what I chose to focus on. So you and your opponents, once again, will get some extra treasures. Let's take a look at the card, Poundmaker, Master Trader. He's one of those that drops very quickly for just one green, one generic. He is a 1/4 rare human ally advisor. So once again, I reused something from Magic's anthologies, you might want to say. The ally creature type, not something that we've seen in quite a while. And Poundmaker himself and the rest of his cards don't care. It doesn't matter that he's an ally, but hey, other cards in Magic do. So there you go. There's a new ally for your consideration, and I found it very fitting also for him to be called an ally, since he is such a peaceful guy. He's such a group hug type of guy. His first ability, the one about diplomatic visibility. Well, there you go. All players play with their hand revealed. That's it. That's simple. No, it doesn't matter who's friend, who's not. Everyone plays with their hands revealed. Done. Easy. And then the ability, I gave the following ability the name Favorable Terms. You tap Poundmaker, and then you choose one. Either target opponent creates a food token, and you create a treasure token for each enchanted land you control. Or you create a single food token, and target opponent creates a treasure token for each enchanted land they control. So there you go. We have trading going on, and the trading is limited on one side to a single food, and on the other side, just like the power that we read in Civ 6, it is not limited. It ramps up depending on the number of enchanted lands you or the target opponent controls. So, the number of quote-quote camps and pastures involved, even though they might not be called camp and pasture, really just any land aura involved, will increase, will enhance the number of treasures you or that other player will receive. Of course, there are many ways of using that. You can truly do a group hug, you can do a diplomatic deal, say, hey, use this ability on me, I have a whole lot of land auras, I'll pay you back, I'll be your, I won't attack you, so you could do some political dealings there. Or you can simply be shrewd, you target someone, so you get the single food token, and then you target a player who has no land auras, and therefore will receive no treasure tokens. You could do that, but of course you might have loaded your own deck with a whole bunch of land auras, and in which case you target the other player to receive the single food, and you target yourself to receive a bunch of treasures. But don't forget, if your land of the Cree is in play, you're trying to give other players things, goodies, because you get free land from it. So yeah, so it's limiting your opponents to few things or nothing at all might not be what you want. Maybe you do want them to get a whole bunch of things because you do get a whole bunch of lands out of it, if you've got the right things in play also. So there you go. So it's very versatile, and it's perfectly in keeping with the spirit of the player, of the leader. Not only he's all about trading, he's all about group hug, but it also scales with the number of land auras, land improvements in play. So yeah, I put everything that Poundmaker had in the game. I put it in his card. I'm very proud about that. And we're not done. Let's take a look at his unique builds. First, his unit, the Okitsita. It is an improved scout, so it replaces the scout. It's a scout that starts with a promotion, essentially. So, scout with extra experience, and therefore I thought it was perfect for a leveling up type of creature. Also, haven't seen those in quite a while in Magic, so hey, why not reuse that old concept? So it's a common 1-drop card for 1 green, Human Scout. At level 0, he's got Vigilance, he's a 1/1, and he levels up with 1 green. And at level 1 through 2, he keeps his Vigilance, he will gain Forest Walk, Mountain Walk, because those are abilities that are in Civ 6. They are upgrades, they are promotions that you can pick for your scouts. The ability to not expend extra movement when walking through forest, and not expend extra movement when walking through hills. So there you go. I thought it was perfectly appropriate to give him Mountain Walk and Forest Walk to represent those promotions. And finally, since later in the promotion tree of a scout, you get just bonus military powers. Your scout simply gets a buff. Well, I simply gave the Okitsita the ability to bolster 2. And of course, his stats do go up, so he goes from 1/1 to 2/2 to 2/4. And bolster 2, well, bolster you don't get to choose which creature gets the bolster, gets the +1/+1 counters. You must choose among the creatures with lowest toughness, and since he's got 4, it might not be him. But, you know, either way, you get to bolster 2, so you get to beef up someone, and it could be himself. So there we go, something straightforward, but at the same time, pretty versatile for a mere common card. And now we move on to something that is a bit more relevant. It synergizes with the ability of the Cree that we've covered so far. The improvement, the unique improvement called the Mikewap. It drops for only 1 green. It is uncommon, and it is indeed, of course, a land aura. So it's perfect for that type of deck. In Civ 6, it feeds off of nearby luxury resources and nearby bonus resources. So luxury resources are things like gold and diamonds, things like that, things that are worth money. Therefore, I translate that into treasures, the riches in Magic terms. That will mean treasures. And bonus resources are usually, citrus and things like that. Usually food resources in Civ 6. And of course, in Magic terms, that will translate into food. And that is why, as an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a food and or a treasure. That represents the fact that you had to build the Mekewap next to a luxury resource and or next to a bonus resource. And then what does it do? Well, if a food was sacrificed, Enchanted Land has tap, create a food. If a treasure was sacrificed, Enchanted Land has tap to create a treasure. And if both were sacrificed, Enchanted Land has create a food and a treasure token. So there you go. So your land gets a bunch of abilities, and of course you might want to save up your tokens until you can use the big one. Tap for one of each. That's pretty neat. And interestingly, you could stick that onto an opponent's land. Just saying. You could choose to give that to your opponent. You're the one who has to do the sacrifice, yes, and you control the aura, yes, but the aura grants the ability to the land. So your opponent will have the ability to tap their land to create all of those goodies. Again, in the spirit of group hug, in the spirit of triggering your Cree land, that might be an interesting move. Maybe not, because it's a bit too powerful, giving your opponent that kind of power. But it's a thought. It's certainly a thought. Especially if you are playing with, actual alliances and partnerships, then yeah, and then that's having Poundmaker as a commander in an actual partnership game, that would be quite nasty. Yeah, so there we go. It represents the fact that this must be built near resources, and it produces more of those exact same kinds of resources. Yeah, in Civ 6, being near a bonus resource will grant you more food, and being near a luxury resource will grant you more gold. So it's perfectly in keeping with the spirit of the Mekewap. The Iron Confederacy is the name of Poundmaker's agenda. So basically, in Civ 6, when you play against him, he will be happy. You will please him if you play peacefully, if you develop alliances. He will be rather upset if you do not do any alliances. If you are a warmongering fool, he will be angry at you. So I made an enchantment that definitely acted as a deterrent for war. You'll see. It is a 5-drop, 2 green plus 3 generic, rare. And I didn't have to do this, but I wanted this to synergize with the rest of this whole trade thing. So I used the Bloomborough concept of the gift. Gift a beaver. So yes, same reminder text as any Bloomborough card. You may promise an opponent a gift as you cast the spell. If you do, when it enters, they create a 1/1 beaver creature, a green creature token. So there you go. And when this enters, if the gift was promised, untap up to 2 target lands. Now, of course, gifting a beaver will not trigger your Cree land. Your Cree land only triggers when they create blood, clue, treasure, food, not when they create creature tokens. Yet it is very much in keeping with the concept of trading, of group hug. And if you do promise the gift, well, you get to untap up to 2 lands. Yeah, don't forget, untapping lands in this project can be huge, because lands will tend to have a whole bunch of really powerful land auras on them. So untapping your lands could be very, very good indeed. And this deck, this potential deck, the Pound Maker deck, would strive to indeed have a whole lot of these land auras. Not only the Mekewap that we just covered, but, you know, just basic, regular green land auras, like Wild Growth, you know. So untapping up to 2 lands can be very, very useful indeed. And then the lingering effect of this enchantment, the one that really makes you think twice about waging war on your opponent. Whenever a creature deals damage to a player, that creature's controller sacrifices a creature. That's pretty nasty. So that's if you're trying to close out a game, if you're especially trying to kill Pound Maker, then you better have a whole bunch of little weenie creatures, such as the beaver. So that's why you might not want to give opponents the beaver, because they might use it as a sacrifice fodder to throw into the furnace to enable them to attack you. But maybe you really need to untap those 2 lands, so you will reluctantly give them the beaver. But yeah, either way, if your opponents are trying to close out the game, to kill you, they better have a whole bunch of weak, expendable creatures to sacrifice in order to allow their surefire, their sure kill, their game-ending creatures to attack. So that's interesting. They don't have to. They mustn't pay mana or pay anything. No, they just must sacrifice creatures. It's worse than many other pacifying deterrents I've seen out there, and that's why it costs 5. So it's in keeping with green or white. Those were 2 colors that for which it would make sense to have an effect like that. And let's move on to the bonus card. I decided to make a card out of the concept of the trade route. So, of course, any leader out in Civ 6, any Civ out there can make trade routes. Any Civ is encouraged greatly to make trade routes. It's one of my favorite aspects of the game. The way that those trade routes just become so huge and lucrative later in the game. It really rewards you for playing peacefully. Trade routes do. But I decided to make to base a card off of that concept and give it to the Cree. Make it part of the Cree bundle, because hey, that's exactly what they do. They do possibly better than anyone else is make trade routes. So it's a 1-drop green rare instant that, in a nutshell, allows you to swap creatures. Target opponent chooses target creature they control. Then you choose target creature you control. The then is very important. They choose first, you choose last. So you are in complete control of what's going to happen. You and that player exchange control of those creatures. Then the player who took control of the creature with the smallest mana value creates a number of treasure tokens equal to the difference between their mana values. There are so many things to cover here, so many decisions. First, you have to decide, do I want the treasures? Maybe you do. In which case, you'd better give them a bigger creature. You take the smaller creature, you get the treasures. But maybe you want them to get the treasures. Don't forget, this is a gift-giving Civ here. So if you have, again, your Land of Cree in play, maybe you want to take the big fat creature, and then you give them in return a smaller creature. They create some treasures, boom, that triggers your Cree land. And on the other hand, do you even have that option? Because they choose first. So if they choose a big fat creature, then you ask yourself, okay, do I want to give an even fatter creature, or do I want to give a smaller creature based on what I want, based on whom I want to receive the treasures? If they choose to give you a tiny little creature, then it's going to be hard to actually give a tinier creature still. So maybe your options are limited. So yeah, it's very interesting. You don't know what they're going to give you. They don't even know if you intend to take the treasures or to give them the treasures. So it's another card that I'm very proud of, because it opens so many options. You might have different reasons, different incentives to want the treasures, or for them to have the treasures. Yeah, so very cool, and it represents the concept of the trade route, and it could indeed trigger the Cree land. And that completes the Cree bundle. So a lovely little mono green guy that would make, I think, a fascinating commander. Would it be easy to win with such a commander? I don't know. How would you win? How would you close out a game? Yes, you could drop, you could gain a whole lot of food and treasures. How would you use those? Of course, treasures means ramp, so you would drop a whole bunch of big fat creatures. Is it a simple matter of a Crater Hoof Behemoth that closes out most games? I don't. A bit overrun type effect. I don't know. Would you actually pick a tribe? Would you load this deck with elves? I don't know. You tell me. The options are very open with this guy because he gives you food and treasures, and from there you can take it a number of different ways. And let's not forget landfall. If you do indeed have a way of very quickly fetching your Cree land and you can rely on it, that it will be there in most games, then this land will guarantee that you'll be fetching lands from your deck like a madman. So a landfall strategy might be very, very, very good as well. So let me know what you think about Poundmaker, and Loki the Gamer asks you, dear slave population, to kneel, but also subscribe. If you have to choose between the two, I'd prefer subscribing.